Thank you for downloading, subscribing, and telling your friends about the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Coming to you from the fire escape behind the kitchen studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Blue Shark Vodka. All the taste without the bite. Blue Shark Vodka coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And by Spot On, tech that helps your business grow. And now conveniently leaving the table when the check comes. It's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss, and I swear I didn't know the check was coming. And today we are getting back into the brewery lifestyle, and nobody better than to tell us about it from the Carolina Brewery, the Director of Brewing Operations, one Becky Hammond. Welcome, Becky.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you in here in our new beautiful studios, almost completely redone.
Inside Max's brain.
Pretty awesome. We're kind of in a new studio. It's still not completely done, but we changed the environment a little bit more casual, a little bit more loungy, and got LED lights going. We can change the colors whenever we want. Oh, now it's yellow. Now it's red. Yeah. Now it's blue. Anyways.
Oh, blue. You know what that reminds me of?
Oh, Blue Shark Vodka, perhaps?
How did you know?
Because I'm a professional, Matt. The shark that doesn't bite brings up a really cool competition that we're talking about.
That's right.
We're talking about Blue Shark Week, not just Shark Week. That was that TV show or that channel that does that thing. This one is specific. It's a bit specific about female blue sharks in the wild. There are very few, and Blue Shark Vodka is taking and making an effort to put their money, their marketing, their efforts, their calories, and the podcast that they work with all together to help promote the advancement
awareness
of blue
blue shark population
in the wild. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to make it a competition with bartenders all around the land, all throughout the state, actually. And so bartenders, if you can hear us from this microphone, we're asking you to develop a Blue Shark Vodka cocktail, take a snazzy little picture of it, take a picture of your recipe or type out your recipe, put it on Instagram, put it on your menu at your bar, tag us and Blue Shark Vodka, and now you're entered to win a grand prize. What's the grand prize, Matt?
So we have, a la the Olympics, we have a gold prize, which is $500. We have a silver prize, which is $250. And then the bronze is a cool $100. But everybody gets a great swag bag. And, well, not everybody, sorry. The first 10 entries get a great swag bag. So whoever your head bartender is, or whatever bartender at the Carolina Brewery over there that you got, Becky, tell them today, get your entry in, get the swag bag, win the money.
Yeah. So we'll announce it all at the very end of Blue Shark Week, which is, again, August 9th through the 13th. We'll handle all this on social media. You'll see it there, too. So follow us on Instagram at NCFBpod, and we'll get going.
Yeah. And before we get going, Max, I got to tell you about my spot-on moment of the week.
Oh, really? What was that?
Well, so we were in Lexington, North Carolina, for some Lexington barbecue, and you know, the way they do everything there is a little bit different with the pork shoulder and the smoking and the whole thing. We'll get it.
Just
and then
salt.
They get a dip.
No pepper.
Just salt, no pepper. They get a dip, and you'll hear more about that on some of our featured episodes. But what was my spot-on thing, what I put on that after you get the dip and everything, they made their own smokehouse barbecue at Lexington Barbecue, locally
ridiculous.
Locally referred to as Monks. And I told the owner there, which was referred to nicely as Bub. Yeah. I said, Bub, I was like, how much can I get of this to take home? And I was like, do you sell it? He's like, oh yeah. And so we went to go and buy a couple of bottles, and he ended up giving us a case of barbecue sauce.
If you know Matt, that's the way to really, hit him in his heart and like really make him feel good. Not food, it's free things.
Free things, yeah. I love free things. So get yourself some Lexington barbecue sauce, shake it well, put it on your barbecue. It's delicious. And a business like that can really be helped out by the tech people at Spot On.
Yeah, from fine dining to food trucks, Spot On's integrated restaurant management system can help make running a restaurant a little less stressful and more successful. You can get this end-to-end solution built specifically by your needs by a real person, Tanya Manibo, who you've already heard. She was with us with Bob Peters last week. She is a real person and super cool, really fun. She is also your local spot-on account executive, and she'll be your partner the whole way. You can give her a call at 858-213-7820 or send her an email, tanyam@spoton.com.
All right. So, Becky,
Yes.
first of all, wasn't there a New York Liberty basketball player named Becky Hammond?
Yes, we are not related.
Okay.
Well, there goes all
How's
my
your-
research. I was like,
Yeah, damn. Well,
it was all the outside jump shots and
New
like,
York
pick
Liberty
and rolls.
basketball
Yeah.
and everything. So, all right. I guess we should just drink beer.
I missed the height by about 6 to 8 inches.
Right.
But you're not in basketball. But from what I understand, doing a little research, you spent a lot of time in Tennessee. Is that right?
Yes, I actually live in Tennessee right now and a born native of Nashville.
All right. I love Nashville. That almost was where I moved the family. That was in the running instead of Raleigh. It was like we were looking at Charleston, we were looking at Richmond, we were looking at Raleigh, and we were looking at Nashville. And if I had my way solely, because I'm a huge music fan, we were going to go to Nashville. But I had to think about everybody else, like my wife and my kids, and then we ended up in Raleigh, which is an awesome thing because, number 2 place to live in the world, I guess. That's what they said, or in the
in that country.
But it's a pretty damn cool place to live. What are your thoughts of being in the Raleigh area? Well, you're in Pittsburgh. That's where the brewery is located, right?
That's right. So we have 2 locations, one in Chapel Hill
Yeah.
and then the second one in Pittsburgh. So they're about 17 miles apart from each other, and we love it. You know, the original Carolina Brewery location is in downtown Chapel Hill, right there in West Franklin. Been around for about 26 years, and it's a staple. I mean, when you come to Chapel Hill, whether you're going to the university or not, you know Carolina Brewery, and we are always welcome to host you.
That was like one of the first beers I ever had coming out here. I think I was just at a hotel waiting for the guys that run Midtown Grill when I was there. I was going to meet them, and bartender was like, yeah, "You want some? Well, if you want something local, let's do Carolina Brewery." I'm like, "Oh, well, when in Rome, let's do that." And so that was the first beer I had in North Carolina, which was pretty cool.
Excellent.
To be like, all right, well, we'll establish a good foot off getting on from there.
Yeah.
Now, you have only been a part of the brewery for how long?
I joined about 3 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, so that would have been this beer I had predated you, and I'm sure I've had it since. But you also, because Matt loves free things, you brought many fun things, not to mention an assortment of beer that you have. So maybe we'll dip into that in a little bit to kind of go from there.
Yeah. But the reason you're here today, and we'll get there, is there's been a major rebrand a couple months ago. So take us through that, what you were before to where you are now.
So we use the time of the COVID-19 shutdowns. Everybody has such fond memories of those shutdowns. To really...
I mean, like the first 2 weeks were fun. You know, you're like, oh, I just get to stay home and watch movies and drink. That's fun.
That's right. But we use that as an opportunity for us to, as a team, reflect internally and externally about our brand. And we felt like it was a unique position for us to really put our pedal to the metal and make sure that our brand reflects all of our brand pillars. And so we did significant due diligence, again, internally and externally, spent significant time reflecting and chewing on different thoughts, and we ended up bringing in Matt Ebbing.
Okay.
For those of you who are not familiar with him, he's a very well-known graphic designer in the spirits industry. If you Google him, I'm sure you'd recognize a couple brands that he's done. And so he helped facilitate this rebrand, and we wanted the branding to pop off the shelf, and at the point of consumption, our guests and consumers to know, as soon as you crack that beer, you know exactly what Carolina Brewery stands for. And that's high-quality beer. That's a non-negotiable brand product for us. Every sip that you're going to have of that is exceptionally delicious. And then additionally, the packaging reflects what's near and dear to all of our hearts, and that's conservation. You know, water is essential for the beer making process, and our entire group, we're all very active people, whether that's Robert Poitras, our CEO, surfing in the Outer Banks, or somebody inland fishing. Water is all part of our life, and it's vital to us to conserve and protect our waves and our waterways. And so when you see our packaging now, you'll see that every single can of beer that we sell, we give back to the North and South Carolina Coastal Federations. And that's vital to us because we're making sure that our consumers know we stand for something, and we stand for the Carolinas and to protect what's so important to all of us.
That's cool. So the Coastal Federations, is part of their responsibility is to clean the waters, keep them clean, maintain.
That's right. That's right. Protect and conserve the waves and waterways.
That's cool. Being the food and beverage podcast, we always have to incorporate both. And I wonder if there's anything in the works for this. Maybe I read something, and that's why I'm thinking about it. But I know that oysters and making oyster farms within the water can help to clean waters. There's a filtration process. Didn't you guys kick off some beer with an oyster dinner or something like that?
Of course. Every year we do a big oyster roast at our Pittsburgh location.
Okay.
And so, you come down, we've got big tables laid out. You've got ice cold beer sitting right by you. And it's just tables and tables of oysters. You come out there, shuck them yourself. We'll shuck them for you, of course, if you want to. And it's a great way for us to kick off a launch of different beers. This year, it was our Castero Mexican lager. And so
that's a new beer you guys have, right?
it is. So we've had it in the past, but it's been a seasonal. And we decided it's time to make it the fourth core product. And so with the rebranding and with everything going on, we said, now's the time. Let's go ahead and add it as the core product.
Okay, I want to get into the core products and what they are. We have them there. But take me through. So we kind of have an understanding of what Carolina Brewery is now. What was it before, and what were people's images of it? And what did it stand for? Like what would, like, Max coming to Raleigh or the area, what would he understand about Carolina Brewery before the rebrand?
So Carolina Brewery's been around since 1995. So the first thing everybody knows is Carolina has been here and it's always going to be here. It's a staple of the Carolinas.
Yeah.
And always brewing high quality beer. Both of our restaurants and our brewery restaurants are made from scratch kitchens. So when you come to us in our two brew pub environments, you're going to be hosted with excellence. And you're going to get great food, you're going to get fabulous beer, and a really wonderful environment to be in. And that's what Carolina is known for, is hospitality 101.
Yeah.
And again, one of the big reasons why we did this branding refresh was, when you've been around that long, sometimes it's time to do a little bit of a makeover. Mm-hmm. And right now, a big thing that pushed us is the market is so saturated with breweries. There's 8,500 breweries, and that's fabulous. But when you go into a Harris Teeter or a Lowe's Food, that beer aisle, it is complex to find what you want. Yeah. And so by having a bright white background and a very simple, clean-looking branding and package and style and feel, that really pops from those shelves. And that tells people that is a Carolina brand. You don't even have to think twice about it. You see it. It's embodied of the Carolinas.
Well, it's funny. It's like it came full circle because, like, back in the day, Miller Lite with like 4 letters, LITE. You see it from across the way, and you're like, "Oh, that's a Miller Lite. I got it." And then up until just a couple of years ago, it was these lavish, super complex labels of just everything and anything. Look like Banksy, like graffitied all over the beer can. And those still are wildly popular now. But it is nice to just go clean, simple.
Exactly. And, like I said, there's 8,500 different craft breweries out there. There's quite a few.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But we at Carolina, we don't want to just be another brewery. We want to be a lifestyle brand, and we are a lifestyle brand. And so a part of this change from, what our packaging was to what it is today is making it synonymous with Carolina. So we have, of course, our look and feel of our cans and six-packs. We also have our new tagline. It's called Who's In? And Who's In to us embodies everything. Whether it's your buddies and you're going to go grill and, hey, who's in for some hot dogs and burgers? Yeah. Or you're going to go do a beach cleanup, or you're going to pack
shipping
up.
in for the bill?
Exactly.
Not us. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's, I mean, obviously that part is great, and now you can kind of more identify it. But let's talk about the beer making. Did anything change in that? Was there a seed change or any major differences?
Hold on, because there's a big thing that we haven't addressed yet, and I want to get to that. But we have to have a little caffeine before we have our beer, and the best way for us to imbibe on that caffeine is with a little Joe Van Gogh coffee.
Yes.
This time, Matt, you made the coffee.
I did, and we're gonna try it out. Oh no. Drum roll, please. Pour it, Max.
Could be good or extremely terrible, but no. But we are drinking the Ethiopian blend. We're getting ready for a Mexican blend that's coming up next week, but this Ethiopian blend is from Gogh, Hambela Wamena, and that's, of course, on the eastern side of Africa.
Of course.
This is a light roast, which, when you have a light roast, you're not doing the Starbucks overly roast destroyed burnt coffee. This is bright and lively, so you get things like plum and tangelo, black tea, little honey. I don't know. It's interesting. It's fantastic. I'm going to pour this right now. Maybe tell everybody where we can get Joe Van Gogh at this point.
So go to joevangoghcoffee.com. You go to your local Joe Van Gogh in Hillsborough, Durham, Raleigh. You can get it there, or just go online and check out joevangough.com.
Freshly poured. Let's see what you did, Matt.
Flavors of plum, tangelo, black tea, and honey.
I mean, don't lead the witness, but it's kind of there. I mean, how smooth is that?
That's pretty damn good.
There's like
That's
no
pretty damn good.
bitterness.
No.
It is like, Matt,
To say, well,
you're not
made.
good at a lot of things, but this, I'll
Thanks,
give it
guys.
to you, man. Your house is probably the most valuable asset you own. But think about it. How much time do you spend taking care of it day to day? Enter Exhale, where you get a dedicated home manager who takes the time to understand your home's unique needs and ensures cleaning, maintenance, and inspections are taken care of. And if you need help with repair or improvement, Exhale will handle that too. Visit exhaleathome.com to learn more and book a consultation. We'll take it from here.
All right, so
yeah.
from good coffee to good beer. I don't know, maybe is there a porter, by the way, coffee porter in the Carolina Brewery
Not a
lineup?
coffee porter, but we do have our oatmeal porter, and that
Okay.
is our winter and fall seasonal. It's
Yeah.
a fan favorite,
So good.
and it makes its return in just about a month.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
Okay, so we were talking about if there's been a change in the beer making process or an upgrade, or, we talked a lot about branding, but what about behind the scenes? What's changed there, or has it changed?
Yeah, historically, Carolina's always been a brew pub, and there's very different processes between a brew pub and a wholesale pub, right? And so
Right.
when you put your beer in a can, the whole game changes. And so we made significant investment into our brewing processes, into our techniques, into our SOPs, and into our on-site laboratory, so that entering into the wholesale about 4 years ago, give or take, we were doing it the right way. And so we model all of our processes, SOPs, and even our equipment based on the big boys. So, what AB InBev and PBR and the quality specs that those guys uphold, it's exactly what we uphold. And we're really proud of that. There's not a lot of breweries of our size that can say, we've got high quality beer and we can back it up with measurements and with science and with mathematical equations.
What is the size? How much beer are you producing, and where do you want to get to?
So we're going to come in just under 7,000 barrels this year,
Okay.
Which is
that's-
growth from last year, especially with 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always want to be the beer of the Carolinas. And so that being said, we're on the growth trajectory of 10, 15, 20,000 barrels over the next couple of years, which is important to us to be sustainable. We don't want to grow too fast that we somehow miss on our brand pillars, but at the same time, we're ready to rumble.
And at what point do you size yourself out of a craft brewer?
Pretty big.
Like,
Is it Red Oak kind of the benchmark, right? At least in North Carolina, like if you exceed the 50,000
Yeah.
case production, then you're now considered a macro brew or so? Or
Yeah, there's all those different tierings and whatnot,
Yeah.
nano to micro to, regional
you
and
still got a
whatnot.
lot of room to grow as a craft brewery.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Sam Adams was still considered craft, and they were massive. I think Sierra Nevada was still considered craft, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there also wasn't like a significant delineation. It's more like, how do you want to market yourself?
That's right. That's right.
What do you want it to be?
yeah, like in wine, there's the rule of thumb is once you surpass 20,000 cases, you're then like a medium-sized winery, and then
Right.
like anything above 50,000, you're a pretty big winery. So,
Yeah.
but that's no official distinction.
The funny
there.
difference is like coming from working for the Jackson family was they would do 4 million cases of Kendall Jackson, which sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But then you'd put that up against what Yellowtail or Barefoot does, and they're doing like 40 million cases. Like the significant jump is like Gallo. Like
I think we need to fact check those numbers because that sounds like a lot, even from Kendall Jackson.
Let's ask the
Yeah, can you ask our producer?
producer how many cases does Yellowtail, Barefoot, and Ernest Julio Gallo make in a year?
Well, Max, you are a little incorrect in the sense that Barefoot is a subsidiary of the parent company Ernest and Julio Gallo, which produces 18 million cases as Barefoot. They also produce 15 million cases as Gallo. But total, Ernest and Julio Gallo as a company produces close to 70 million cases annually. Conversely, the Wine Group, which is a privately owned company, and generates 53 million cases annually. Yellowtail produces 11.5 million cases. Chengyu, a Chinese wine company, produces 10.7 million cases annually. Robert Mondavi, 10.5 million cases, parent company of Constellation Brands, which exceeds beyond 40 million cases annually. So you're kind of right and kind of wrong at the same time.
I was either right or wrong.
That's awesome.
Like, the point that I'm making is that if you're making, whether it's like 4 million or 12 million, you're just considered big.
Right.
That's right.
There's no tiers at that point. It's like the tax bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just rich.
Yeah,
That's
once
it.
you make over a certain amount of money, doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or $250,000 a year income, you're in the same bracket.
But I want to get a little bit into the business of this because it's no longer like a straight up family owned brewery anymore. This is like the company was bought out, correct? And it's a bigger corporation now that is helping to preserve and grow the business. And I don't want your posture changes a little bit when I asked you that question. It's okay. You're in a safe room. We talked to Appalachian Mountain Brewing when they were also bought out and brought up. Wicked Wheat, of course, famously with Anheuser-Busch. We get it. This is growth. This is like, hey, the way to get to the next level is to look and see what is the next level and how can you do this. We always say too, like these companies, these bigger companies aren't coming in to say, great, we want to make you just like Budweiser. They're like, no, we want you to do exactly what you're doing. We just want you to make more so that we can make profit off of you. So what do you need to like get bigger?
Yeah.
Is this your way of saying, hey, Podcast One, Ringer, the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast is for sale? Like, you could buy us if you wanted to. Write the check.
Everything's for sale, my friend. We're in America. But so I don't know if Carolina Brewery is necessarily for sale, but there was a shift in ownership. Is that correct?
That's right. So Robert Poitras started Carolina Brewery right out of college, and he operated it from day one all the way through, and that's a big job for one person. And so my company, Square One Holding, we came in and, of course, invested in Carolina Brewery and became Carolina Brewery's partner so that Robert had resources and backing to help him operate this, 2 restaurants plus a wholesale. That's a lot for one person. And so now he's got my whole team, which my team all comes from the Craftwork Gordon Biersch side of things. So we're all very versed.
San Jose!
There we go.
That's where I'm born and raised.
Okay.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
Gordon Biersch was an excellent. I say was an excellent brewery. They went through a lot of changes. I think didn't Biersch leave, and now it's just Gordon and all that nonsense. I don't know, but I hold that very close to the heart.
Yeah. So we all come from many, many years of restaurants and brewery operations.
Garlic fries.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, we're here to help support Carolina Brewery grow, expand, and that's holistic. That goes from the kitchen to the front of house and the operations up there, as well as the brewery. And so it's really been able to give Carolina the support and the foundation to say, okay, we are here to grow, we're here to stay, but we've got the foundation that's solid. And a lot of craft breweries don't have that opportunity.
Yeah. And I want to see, how does that, because I mentioned at the beginning, you're the director of brewing for brewing operations for Carolina Brewery, but the fact is you're actually the director of brewing operations for Square One. So that's a tough job. And I know, like, your thing, people that know you within the industry know that, like, you are this master fuser of art and science. But does that help you to go across the board with Square One? Like, is there some sort of through line through all of Square One Holdings breweries? And how many breweries is there as a part of Square One?
So we have 5 right now.
Okay.
Carolina would make up 2. We've got one in Knoxville called Balter Beer Works.
Okay.
One in Clarksville, Tennessee, Strawberry Alley Ale Works. And then one in Jasper, Tennessee, which is called Top of the Rock. And it is actually on top of the mountain.
Aptly named.
It's pretty amazing. And so that's our portfolio. And what's great about having sister restaurants within, the Square One umbrella is you have collaboration at your fingertips. You can call somebody a couple hours away if you need a hop or you need an idea on a recipe, but it's all collaborative.
Oh, yeah.
And it also creates this foundational standard of quality. Every brewery restaurant that we have is doing things a little bit differently. Recipes are a little bit differently, or styles are. But at the end of the day, we're all brewing in the same high quality standards that we set from the top level. And that's what really sets our breweries apart, is that we're together operating. These tiny little breweries are operating like these big boys are.
So did Robert and Square One have like a very intimate and specific conversation about flavor profile and like, this is the identity of this brewery, you must preserve that? Is there something that was said to be like, okay, you're coming in, but I need you to understand the heart and soul of this brewery and not just make us like all the other breweries that you're also brewing?
Yeah, so Alan Corey is the CEO of Square One Holding. He is also a UNC grad and has known Robert Poitras for quite some time.
Nice.
And so when Robert and Alan were discussing the opportunity for Square One to come in and help support Carolina Brewery, that was collaborative. And Alan Corey has years and years of expertise in brewing industry, in beer knowledge. And it was decided together that we're going to make high quality beer. Whatever that means, we'll define that later. But at the end of the day, we're going to make these high quality, traditional, easy drinking, crisp beers and stay true to style. And so, as you can see, most of our styles are more traditional and in terms of the process, but not in terms of the flavor.
I was going to say, too, like, just a very broad and oversimplified expression of this brewery. I've always thought of it to be kind of like light and easy drinking, like kind of more refreshing, not so much the oatmeal stouts, even though you'll do that at times. But that wasn't what you led with. It wasn't like, we're going to do old school, big, rich brown ales, that sit in that realm. It feels like, if you're from Carolina and you want to like be on the coast or even just the crazy humid summers, this is the type of beer you want to be drinking.
Exactly. I mean, if our flagship beer, Sky Blue Kolsch. Kolsch is obviously a German style beer, and in the world, here we are in America, but in the world, the German style beers typically have the highest tick marks for quality. And so for our Kolsch to be our lightest beer, we don't say, that's the good noise.
That's the one. Yeah.
We don't say that's a Kolsch style. We say that is a Kolsch because it is a Kolsch. And so, in other words, we brew that authentic, traditional, it's easy drinking, it's crisp, and it's light. Yeah. So you can drink that anywhere. On a boat. Thank you, sir. On a boat, at your house after a hard day at work. But this it's a beer that you don't have to think about. It's a beer that you love. It's always going to be exactly the way it's supposed to taste.
Whoa.
And
the nose is like, it's huge. Like a Kolsch usually is so mellow and timid, I'd say, but like I'm getting like bright fruit off them, like orange peel, orange rind, like all that off the nose, right? Like that's very expressive.
So it almost smells like a citrus lemon peel fruited beer in a way, in a good way.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's got that little like kind of tang tropical finish that comes through there. This is a good beer. And yeah, like I want to be chilling on the beach or at the pool.
I could definitely want to drink this on a hot, humid day. Like this is refreshment.
And it's got all the flavor. So it's still light in calories. It's still light in alcohol, low ABV, but it's still full flavor.
What is the ABV on this?
It's 4.8.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a crusher.
And so this is one of your pillars.
Yep, yeah. This is Sky Blue's been around. It'll always be around. And like I said, not every brewery's lightest beer is a Kolsch. It could be an American ale American lager, or all different kinds of things. But this is authentic. This is the light beer of the world, and that's why we're making it, because we make it for the Carolinas. So
we were talking to a brewer recently, and they were telling us, this was like before we even got on the mics, dispelling the myth that lagers and pilsners take as long as they take versus, like, say, an ale. But I always thought that like lagers do take through the fermenting process or take a lot longer. But they're like, with technology, they're all about the same. Is that bullshit or is that real? That sounds like bullshit.
Well, I'll say to each their own, right? To each their own.
Yeah.
Yes, lagers do take longer than ales, both in primary and secondary fermentation. And then it's what you do with your yeast, and it's what you do or allow the beer to do after that primary fermentation's done that's going to set the stage for what that beer is. And so, some folks are still traditional lagering for 1 to 3 months. Some folks are just hitting it right through a filter and, rocking it out. We have our own technique of lagering that makes our beers crisp and clean regardless of the style. So we don't
But does yours take longer, or is the time frame of making a lager versus an ale?
Yes, it is longer. Yep.
It is longer.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I heard this and I'm like, wait, what? No. It's still the process of making a lager in general, no matter what you're going to do with technology, it's still going to take a little bit longer just by practice of how it's done.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
Well, I guess unless you're aging an ale, right?
Well, sure, but that's secondary. Or that would happen after it's finished.
Right.
Yeah, because the difference is ales are top fermenting and lagers are bottom fermenting.
That's right.
Right. So yeah, it makes sense that lagers would take longer.
Yeah.
Well, and the fun fact to remember is that you can lager a lager or you can lager an ale. That's where people start to get confused sometimes. So lager and ale tells you which yeast is being used, but then the lagering process can be used for both.
Oh, okay.
So the lagering process is once your yeast is done consuming sugars, then you can let your beer sit. That's called lagering for a long time. So you can lager an ale. It just depends on what you want to do with your style.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that gives you more of a
Is there like
heavier
a beer
style?
Is there a beer that we would know that is a lagered ale that makes us understand, like a popular beer that we might know, like, oh, that's a lagered ale that you're drinking?
Well, technically, a Kolsch is a lagered ale.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're using, so a Kolsch by nature is almost a hybrid. So it is a German style ale. It is an ale, but you treat it like a lager. So you ferment it cold like you would a lager, and you give it that time for all those flavors to meld and congeal together in it like you would a lager, but you do use ale yeast. So it's right on that cusp of being kind of a little bit of both, which
what
is
do you
why it's
mean
so crisp.
fermenting it cold. How does it ferment cold?
The temperature. So nowadays we have this. Sorry.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be cold?
No. I get that, but how does the yeast get activated if it's a cold temperature?
Great question. So, us brewers, we're not really brewers. We are yeast shepherds. Our whole job is to babysit these divas of yeast cells. If your yeast is happy, your beer is going to be great.
Right.
And so one unique thing that we do at Carolina is we do in-house yeast propagations. So a lot of times craft breweries will order what's called a pitch, or the amount of yeast that you need to brew a beer.
Sure.
That can be very expensive, and you're requiring a laboratory to give you exactly the yeast that you want. What we do is instead of buying a big pitch of this yeast, we buy it in very small quantities and we grow it up ourselves.
Right.
Oh,
and by
nice.
being able to do that, we're essentially more or less training the yeast to do exactly what we want. So
Right.
if we're going to ferment it on the colder side, where the yeast is not as comfortable, we've already pre-trained it to do that.
So it's like a cold weather yeast. It's yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, it even in wine, if you have a very hot climate, the yeast is much more active and it's wild, and it
right.
actually consumes the sugars faster. And then if you're slowing down the dinner time for the yeast, right?
right.
By just lowering the degrees, you're not freezing it.
Right.
You're just chilling it down. Like you're probably
Right.
looking at more instead
like-
of up in the hundreds, like 100 degrees is probably. Am I wrong with saying aren't like hot yeast fermentations happening at like 120, 130 degrees?
Probably. I only speak in
Fact check that.
Celsius because I'm that one person who only speaks Celsius. So typically your ales are going to be in that 68 Fahrenheit to 80 to low 90s in Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in Celsius, you're looking between 18 to 24
Right.
Celsius.
Okay.
So on the Kolsch, we're down in the low end of that, even beyond that, to get it really crisp and clean and not get all those fruity esters that the yeast will produce at the warmer temperatures.
Yeah, so like you said, around 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what you're fermenting the Kolsch at. Yeah, that's
A little bit lower,
When
yeah.
you said cold ferment, I was like, yeah, well, how does that work? But yeah, right. It's obviously on the range of
kinda
Right,
slow.
right.
Yeah.
So, okay, we just opened Castero, which is your Mexican lager, right?
Yes.
Is that Castero, is it Spanish for coast?
It is.
Yeah, look at me, the Trujillo over
Wow.
here. By the way, maybe I'm on a lark on this map flavor profile, but I've been smelling this as we were talking in these fantastic Pilsner glasses where I'm getting all the notes. Am I wrong to say a little strawberry cream is like what I kind of get? I know it's nuts, but I get like a creaminess off the nose. But
So
there's a lot of like red fruit coming off, which I did not expect to get out of a lager.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get a little bit of that creaminess because it is a Mexican style lager, so it does have some corn in it. But this is right now. A lot of craft breweries will go more in terms of the Vienna lager or the little bit heavier lager styles. Very few are doing the authentic low ABV Mexican lager. So essentially, we're going up against Corona and Dos Equis and Modelo and those guys. And so that's what Castero is we've worked on Castero for quite some time, really trying to perfect this recipe. And, like I said, we've had it in the past as a seasonal. It's now the core beer, and it is growing. I mean, we can't keep it in stock enough. It's just flying.
It's a great beer. It's a great beer. I'm confused, though, because I think of, like, Mexican lager, and I know, Corona is obviously a well-known lager style, but when you drink Corona, it's super light. And a lot of people say piss water or whatever, but like it's really light. This is a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems a little bit heavier, like a little bit.
I think it's
for lack of a better,
flavorful.
Well, it is flavor, but even the color, you can see it like looks a little bit more honeyed or brown, and so that's I guess more like a Modelo or what I would think of. But you're saying that they're both traditional Mexican lagers.
That's right. Ours is just craft.
Okay.
And you don't need to put a lime in this one, I assume.
I'm kidding. Well, actually,
shots fired. Who cares? There's no one from Corona hanging out here. I will tell you this. My brother he visited the Carolina Brewery in Mexico, and he said he decided he'd stop drinking Corona because they were housing all of their cases of Corona outside, not in like a cooler or anything.
Yeah.
And he said he saw rats all over the place. Now, this is like in the late 80s when he like took a trip with his buddies from California just down to Mexico. And they went and he's like, I was done with Corona after that point. And it's always been in the back of my head. So I'm always like, eh. And then, of course, the coronavirus didn't help them out at all.
No.
They're like, who do we sue? for making a pandemic our brand?
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. Like, Delta's now like, whoa. Delta variant? No. That's the TWA variant. They
You're
were
right.
already out of the business.
It's the Eastern Airlines variant.
Yeah. All right. But no, I appreciate that. Mexican lagers are very trendy. They're very cool because of the simplistic crushability for them. But they're also not really easy to make.
That's
I feel
right.
like mainly because you can make it taste like piss. Like,
That's exactly right.
right.
Yep.
That's the difficult part. It's not difficult to necessarily make it. It's making it taste good.
Yeah,
That's the hard part.
the lighter your beer goes, whether that's in calories or in alcohol or even in color, frankly, it's very difficult to hide anything you don't want in there. So any kind of off, it's very, very difficult.
It's the acoustic guitar of beer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so you're right. This one is more flavorful than a Corona, and it is a little bit of a more golden color, less of that pale straw color. And that's because it's authentic. There's only a couple malts in it, and we use an authentic Mexican yeast that, again, we propagate in-house and really make sure that we train it to do exactly what we want it to do and not produce a bunch of off flavors. But coming in at 4.5%, you can crush it, whether you're on the beach or you're anywhere, really. It's crushable.
So just to get to color for a second. So if you wanted this to be more of a yellowed, clear, translucent color, you're saying that you would be more manipulative and do something else, like add something?
Yeah, a lot of those beers that are that pale color, if you think about, the Big 10 at the grocery store.
Yeah.
A lot of those have adjuncts in them, a significant amount of adjuncts. And what I mean by that is you're talking about rice and corn and things that aren't barley based or malt based. And so yes, we do put a little bit of corn in here because you need that corn. That is part of the style. Without it, you're not fitting that style.
It's not a Mexican lager now.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this is an authentic craft beer, so it is mostly made up of malt, as opposed to those adjuncts, and that's where your flavor and your color come from, as opposed to 80% corn with a lot of water.
Gotcha.
And very little flavor.
Okay.
You're going to think I'm nuts when I say this, but close your eyes, smell. Gewürztraminer.
I mean, I see where you're going. There's definitely a lot of floral notes in that beer.
Like rose petal, like more specific, right? We're talking about the amber now. We moved over, but I don't know why that feels very wine-like to me when I'm smelling this amber that we just poured. It's what is it? I'm sorry. What's the cans?
This is Copperline.
Copperline amber.
Copperline amber.
What's
So
the name
Copperline
mean?
I think it has to do with a train. I'm not actually sure.
We'll fact check.
We've just had it for a long time.
The producer of Carolina Brewery. What does that mean?
Copperline is a few things. One, a neighborhood outside of Chapel Hill, and also a song written by James Taylor, notably a North Carolina native.
But Copperline won Best in State in North Carolina last year.
Oh, nice.
So we're very proud of this one. And it is growing rapidly. This is what we call our food beer. So this
there you
pairs
go,
with
Max.
pretty much anything, particularly our line of barbecue products. But this is you're going to be barbecuing, you're eating a pizza, whatever kind of food you're indulging in, this is our go-to for that.
Yeah, I could see that. It's got a lot of body. It's got a lot of fruit. It's almost got there's some wine quality there. Like it's got a...
If you're throwing a party, you're throwing Kolsch's and Mexican the Casteros to your friends when they get there. But then once the ribs come off the grill, you're switching them over to the Copperline Amber. Like
There you go.
that's how you do it. You're like, all right, everybody, yeah, here we go. Step it up. This has got a little bit more heft to it.
Yeah.
That's right. And Copperline is as authentic of an amber or red ale as you can get. And there's plenty of beers out there that tote amber or red or different styles, but a lot of them are very, very malty and roasty or very high in ABVs. This is a very balanced amber ale. It's at 5.2% alcohol, and it's still easy drinking, but doesn't lack on any of the flavor.
Right.
And it's got a great mouthfeel, but a lot of people get scared of this style because they see the darker color and automatically assume it's high in calorie and it's high in alcohol, and that's not the case.
Right.
And the other thing is, people think it's going to be heavy on the belly when you drink it, and it's not. Don't let the color make you think anything different.
Yeah.
Is this the one that won the bronze for GABF?
Yes.
Okay.
Sky Blue has won, and Copperline has won recently in the past couple years. And I think
And
those are
that's a
actually
big
printed on
deal. The
cans.
JABF is,
Yeah.
what is it? That's like the Oscars of beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oversimplified. Yeah.
So you mentioned this is a textbook amber ale or like a classic. So what would be some of our recognition points for other beers that we would have had in the past that would be considered a classic, like of the bigger brands?
One that would be similar, the more similar to it, of course, they're very different. Fat Tire would be one.
Okay.
If you're looking for kind of an understanding of the style, Fat
Yeah.
Tire is a good example of that.
Okay.
And again, that's that really traditional but high quality red ale. But you're not talking about the big British milds or bitters or anything of that nature. You're talking about a really easy drinking red beer. It just happens to be red, so a little bit of caramel flavors to it.
Yeah. So what besides the caramel flavors, what makes it red? Is it specific types of yeast or specific types of malt?
Yeah, no, the color comes 100% from the malt.
Okay.
And so,
Is that in every beer, by the way? I mean, unless you're talking like lambics and fruited beer and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
Okay.
most of your color, if not all of your color, is going to come from your malt.
Okay.
There's ways to do some manipulations on that, but if you're brewing a true beer, right, malt, barley, or malt, hops, water, yeast, it's all that color is going to come from the barley, from the malt.
Yeah, because it's like the same in wine that people always ask, oh, what's the color from? Like 99.9% of the time, color in wine comes from maceration with the grape
Yep,
skin. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Before we get into, oh my God, I just cracked this IPA and I have this down in my lap and I can already get all the hops in my, it just permeated the
Yep.
entire room.
Yep.
But before we get there, you did kind of allude to the barbecue sauce, and I actually didn't know about that, so my apologies. You brought two different distinct styles of barbecue sauce and a rub. I noticed it. I'm just taking a little leap here. It looks like we've got like a North Carolina style sauce, and it looks like we got a South Carolina style sauce, meaning the vinegar based kind of chili pepper East North Carolina barbecue sauce, and then you've got a mustard base that kind of shoots you more down towards the South Carolina states over there. Am I right?
That's right. So again, Carolina Brewery, we're not just a brewery, we're a lifestyle brand. We're here for all aspects of your day to day. And so, that goes from the beers, that goes from different clothing, and then we round that out with our barbecue products. So you nailed it on the head. We have our vinegar-based barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And then our gold sauce, or our mustard-based sauce, is our newest addition to the lineup. And it has been around for just about a year. The third product we have is our authentic dry rub. And I tell you what, we can't keep this in stock. People use it once and they go crazy for it. And we are about to add a fourth product, so a little sneak peek to it. Hopefully I'm allowed to say it. But we will be having a sriracha steak sauce come onto the market.
Wow.
So be on the lookout for
Mic
that.
drop.
Okay. That might have to be our new spot on
Yeah.
pairing. I love all this. I mean, now that I've been smoking so much meat with the Commodore, like, Matt, we're going to have to play some Rochambeau to see who gets what on this little thing. Figure it out.
Figure out how to divvy up that rub.
Yeah. But maybe I'll invite you over to the house for a little smoking of meats, and then we can all enjoy. Okay, so I've made fun of myself in the past by being like now I'm going to sound like an asshole, a basic Becky. Oh, damn. Sorry, Becky.
Not the first time.
About being a huge IPA fan, because everybody and their moms love the super hoppy IPAs, except for my wife, of course. She is not a fan at all. She would love all the first beers you had and then would not drink an American IPA because it's too intense. But I don't know if it's because of like all the alcohol I've consumed in my life that I need the crazy smack you in the face type of
Big
beer,
hoppy
because
flavor.
I will say, being that I traditionally like these big beers, I was more than impressed with the more subtle Kolsch and Castero Mexican lager. Like, yeah, I want to drink those more often. But now we're back in my backyard where I would normally drink, talking about hops, like overdone, crazy, it hit you in the face. So what kind of hops are you using? What's the ABV? Like, what's the style of this beer?
So American IPA, honestly, it deserves its own kind of category of IPA. It's the IPA category has changed so much over the past 5, 10, 15 years. Now you've got even more new categories, NEPAs and hazies and all these things. This IPA is, frankly, borderlines of pale ale. So it's right on that cusp of IPA and pale ale. And so in this beer, we get all of that full flavor and full aroma of the tropical and fruity hops. We use Cascade, Amarillo, and Mosaic.
Yeah.
And we use cryo hops. So these are cryogenically frozen. And it's a different way of using a hop. But what that does is it really allows us to get these pack full of punch of flavor and aromas, especially right when you crack that can, you could smell it. But not skip on yield or get things like hop burn or hop creep.
Cryovac, like Ted Williams.
Cryo hopped.
Cryo.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Cryovac like this.
Isn't Ted Williams still on ice right now?
Probably.
The last player to hit 400 in the baseball? No, he's frozen in a solid state. Did you not know that?
Yeah, that.
Anyways.
Yes.
Oh, you can
know.
talk about the Mets for 5 minutes, and I bring up Ted Williams one time, and now I'm the guy going off the rails.
No, I'm just not sure if is that a rumor or is that actually true that he was frozen? But
He was frozen before he died.
yeah.
Or
But is
like
he
right when he
still-
died, they froze him.
Is he still frozen?
I think so.
John Henry something,
We're
the
waiting
owner
for
of
him
the Red
to
Sox.
be
Yeah.
the idiocracy guy in 500 years and
Right.
change the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No, but back to this IPA, the cryo hopped IPA. It's really good, and it's got like this savory component. It's almost like chivy and dill in a way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah. This is one of those fabulous IPAs where, you get the opportunity to kind of get your own sensory perception, right? When there's an IPA that you use a singular hop or a very specific hop, everybody's going to smell it very similar, right? An orange for Amarillo and things like that. This one really allows your own aromatic palate to come out, but it's not an IPA where you can only drink one, and that's what was important to us. Is we wanted to make a very balanced IPA. We didn't want it to be overly bitterness, and we certainly didn't want it to be very sweet. We wanted it to be very balanced so that you could even drink this on a boat or on the beach. Typically an IPA style is not somebody's go-to when you're out there sitting in the hot sun. But I can't tell you how many people I know this is their lawnmower beer.
Yeah, it's not immense. You said
Also
something.
got some nice kind bud smell to it too. Let's be honest. That's the
Yeah,
that's the hops kicking in.
Well, you said something that confused me a little bit, though. You said this is like the bridge or the in between a pale ale and an IPA, but an IPA is a pale ale. It's a India pale ale. So define that a little bit more. Like, what are the differences then between just a pale ale and an India pale ale?
Yeah, those differences, they're minute.
Yeah.
And everybody that you ask probably has a different opinion of that. And
Okay.
typically, the line between your pale ale and your IPA is going to land on your alcohol, the amount of alcohol in it, and your IBUs. But even IBUs are a subject
IBUs.
of international bittering units. In other words, the higher the IBUs, the more hoppy it's going to be, in layman's terms.
Sure.
Okay. But that means the more you hop your beer, the more it translates to IBUs. Works both
That's
ways. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, right. And so the old story is that India Pale Ale was created because when the British were colonizing India and sending ships over there, they had to preserve their beer to get all the way across the ocean to get over there. So they hopped the shit out of it so it would preserve, and then that became a style that actually people liked.
All right, that's certainly the myth.
That's the romantic way.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
we also want to get super crunked, so let's just make this thing. Because let's be honest, we were talking about sailors at the time. They were like four inches away from just being pirates. Let's be honest. So they're like, how can we get super effed up? Oh, the hops and this will just make it have higher alcohol level. Yeah, that's what we're going to call the India. It was just like, this is the beer we're going to drink on that long ass drive or sail. So we need something that has higher octane.
Right.
That's really where it came
Yeah.
from.
Well, that's still either way. It makes sense of
we
how
wanted to make sure the beer tastes good when we got to India. No. It was you wanted to get crunked while you were going to India.
Well, I ask you, does the extra hopping add a preservative quality to the beer?
Technically, yes, it has a microbial quality to it. Now, you're also going to be boiling that wort in the beer making process, so that is also going to be, it's more of extending that shelf life a little bit. So
So when
microbial.
we thaw out Ted Williams, you better serve him one of these IPAs that we've made here in 2021. It'll be delicious then.
You're like, what the heck is this?
All right, so before we get out of here, thank you so much for being here. For one, this
Of
is
course.
awesome. I've been like I feel like we've had these beer conversations with many brewers, but why do I feel like I understand it more with you telling me, Becky? Like,
Yeah.
like I get it more. It makes more sense.
We can talk beer all day.
Yeah, I
All
get
day.
that. I get that. So like what's now? Like you opened up, you have new beers that you're putting through. You have the restaurants, of course. Where are they located?
One is in downtown Chapel Hill, right
right.
there on historic West Franklin Street, and the other is about 17 miles due south on 15501 in Pittsburgh.
That's right. Very cool. Which is nice. I don't get out there enough. You're up there in Chapel Hill all the time, man.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you brewing out of both facilities?
We do. So we're actually in the process of changing the Chapel Hill Brewery. So right now it's a 26-year-old Bohemian system that has certainly done its tour of duty. And we're in the process of changing that into a smaller system that we can really use as not only test batches, but be able to pump out some seasonals and specialties in the restaurants alone at a higher clip. And then all of our wholesale distribution happens in the Pittsburgh location.
Okay, so you have more barrels to
Yep.
yeah. What's
Yep.
the barrel system there? How
In
many?
Pittsburgh, we have a 15-barrel system with 15, 30, and 60-barrel tanks.
Oh, wow.
So it's a tank farm. We have about 26 tanks crammed in the back of Pittsburgh.
So you can make some beer.
We can make some beer. It's
Cool.
it's a tank farm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
That's
like it.
awesome.
There's a growth plan there.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's still all self-distributing, right? Like you still get it to yourselves, or is there?
We partner with our distributors, so we do the 3-tier system,
Okay.
and that's allowed us to go statewide. So we are statewide in North Carolina. We are in northern South Carolina and coastal South Carolina right now, looking to expand that distribution by the end of the year going into 2022. And we're also in middle to east Tennessee, of course. We got to give Nashville some love.
Sure.
Because a lot of our listeners are in the industry, and like if I was a beverage manager, who are your distributors in this area?
So in this immediate area, we've got Harris Beverage, which would be
Harris, yeah.
Durham, Chapel Hill, and then R.H. Behringer as well. Right outside of the 80 intermediate triangle, you're looking at Adams Beverage to the south, Carolina Eagle to the east.
Nice. That makes it easy.
Yeah. I also have to imagine that these beers either are or can easily be available at our great friends, the Triangle Wine Company, which also has a great selection of beers. And the Triangle Wine Company has 3 locations throughout. 4 locations. Holly Springs, they're in Cary, and they're out in Southern Pines, and they are out in the New Bedford area of North Raleigh. So they have a great selection of beer, as I said, and I think these would be a great selection in there. And even if they don't have them, just talk to the people there. They will definitely reach out and get them there for you. Don't forget to use the NCFB promo code when you are checking out to receive a nice discount, and go online, and you can even vet the whole process before by going to trianglewineco.com.
That sounds awesome. And then when you're there, and you yourself, Becky, will also imbibe in some fantastic proof alcohol ice cream.
Of course.
There's a little 7% ABV in every pint, so it's like having a big old hoppy beer right there, but instead it's a flavor of, coconut rum or bourbon caramel, strawberry moonshine, all these delicious flavors, and then you have seasonals that are coming out. We're getting close to the fall. We're getting that pumpkin spice coming. So you'll go home with a little bit of proof alcohol ice cream for being a guest on the show, as well as some fun other little partying gifts. But to the listeners,
Proof alcohol ice cream.
Thanks,
We
Brian.
pour art and science into every bite. An artisan ice cream company from Columbia, South Carolina. Proof is changing the way people think about dessert.
well, exactly. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know
Maybe
why
I should've
we bothered.
I probably should have hit mute on that earlier, but it was perfectly timed. So thank you, Brian. And go to proofalcoholicecream.com for more information. But more specifically, look for those little red freezers that you can find at Triangle Wine Company. And if you do not have a Triangle Wine Company in your nearest area, you could also, I guess, go to Lowe's or Harris Teeter or Total Wine, all those big stores, because they're also proudly serving proof alcohol ice cream. So, thank you, Becky, for being here.
Thank you for hosting me.
Oh, it was a pleasure. The summer's still going. The pool's still happening. I'm gonna get a couple of these cases, throw them in my little Yeti, and then bring it over to the pool and watch my kids dive while I'm sipping on some Mexican lager. So, Matt, what else you got?
Or if you're out in Chapel Hill or you're in Pittsburgh, go to the Carolina Brewery. You will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged. Triangle Wine Company, locally owned and operated. Triangle Wine Company is committed to creating the best shopping experience in fine wine and craft beer.